same old, same old. Very simple. We've made it hard over the years by believing we are that separate entity, that person, that individual. Instead of realising it's all one essence, appearing, patterning, expressing as everything. As I tell you in the scriptures, Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one God. There is none other. There's nothing other than that. And that's the Mahavakya. I am that. I think it was one of the third patriarch of Zen or something like that, who had been a song made about him, and he was a fellow that travelled to find his master, and he came to on this guru, I forget their names, well, Yu-Ning was one of them, I think. And he wanted to find truth, so he said, he gave him a job in the kitchen as a cook, I think it was. And he's there for a few years, and the other fellow there was a head monk, and they all believed him would take over the lineage later on. And he wrote up something on the wall because he wasn't going to say it himself to prove he knew more than the others. And they said, oh, what a wonderful thing he's written, and everybody praised it. And the cook, who couldn't read or write, asked one of the others to read it for him. And he read it for him, and he saw it and understood. He wrote something underneath, and it was far out. Did the other one. So. And the head of the monastery came down and saw it. They were all raving over their statement, and he knew who wrote it. And he asked him to come and see him in midnight. So he came and saw him. And they put, to pass on the tradition, they had the robe and the staff, and I forget what the other thing was, it doesn't matter anyway, it's all the story. He said, take this, but you better not stick around here, because I'll kill you. All the others will be jealous and they'll kill you. They had it up to the mountains, and other monk that was believed he was the one, I think, took off after him when he found he'd gone, caught up with him in the hills, and he said, I want that staff, and what was that other thing I said, I forget now. The robe, and the staff, and another thing anyway, whatever it was. And he said, okay, you can have it. But he says, first, show me your original face. And he saw it. And so he didn't bother taking the staff to monk. We saw it. One became the head of the northern school and the other one the head of the southern school. But what's the original face? Now, centuries later, if you read Douglas Harding, he points out that naturally. Have a look and see what your face is. You can't actually see your face. Can you? You can't. So that's your original face. Now, a lot of the Eastern traditions and in a lot of the Western too, people are frightened what's being said about them or to them, and they're frightened of losing face. You know, they feel affronted or confronted. If only they had realised there is no face. Saw the original face, there is no face. Then what have they got to fear? What have they got to dislike? And that's what we've got to look at here and see. That's what we try and point out. You can't see your face. Look in the mirror, you can see a imagined face or picture. But your actual face, you can't see. But you like that life essence, is all that we are, the cognizing emptiness. They call it an emptiness, a space-like awareness. All different ways they point it out. Can you show me space? Can you conceptualize and tell me what it is? It is no thing. And being no thing, it's empty of anything. And there's nobody in this room who's not knowing right now. Another term for knowing is cognizing. And when the Buddha said there's a cognizing emptiness, we've never investigated that, most of us, and take it to be we are cognizing the emptiness. We're seeing but not realise it's the emptiness itself that's patterning, shaping through all this manifestation that's doing the cognizing. It's that emptiness that is knowing. There's always that pure knowingness. I made the statement then, that emptiness is form. We think all these pattern, shapes and forms, which we are and everything around us is pattern, shapes and forms, we don't realise that they are the emptiness. They're only appearing to be pattern, shapes and forms, with what he calls a phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. So everything we see here, outside and everywhere else, and everybody is doing the same thing, is that cognizing emptiness that is expressing through all these patterns, shapes and forms, through all the appearances. How could it express through a pattern, shape and form if the pattern, shape and form wasn't there to express through? All that patterns, shapes and forms are vibrations of that intelligent energy, the cognizing emptiness. And if everything is that, and that's the Mahavakya of the great mantra, and how do you express yourself? You say, I am. But we haven't taken to see the reality, I am that. We hear the mantra, we hear it, we never look at it, never understand what it means. I am that emptiness. And you realise everything is that. That's the chair, that's the carpet, that's the tree, that's the flower, that's the sky. Everything is that. And so it must be the emptiness. So they made the statement then that emptiness is form. And they pointed out also that the form can be nothing other than the emptiness. So that you, me and everything in this room are that empty form, patterning, seemingly solid and substantial through the vibrations and the patterns we take as they seem to express as. Emptiness is form and form is emptiness. And it's all that cognizing emptiness, the one essence patterning, shaping, forming, appearing and expressing as everything. And when you say, I am that, we just mouth the words, not realising what we're saying. We say, I am that person, or I am that separate entity, I am that individual. Not realising you are that totality. And it's only the one totality, one godliness, if you like to call it that. And that's what they tell you in the scriptures. They put it out in many, many different ways, and we hear it in many different ways, but very few take notice of it. Don't they tell you in the Bible, the Lord thy God is one God? There is nothing other. Hear, O Israel, only God. And they tell you that God is omnipresence, it's a total presence. Omnipotence, a total power. and the total intelligence, omnipresence, omniscience. What's the other one?
Omnipotence.
Omnipotence, total power. It was pointed out many different ways, but how many of us take notice of it? We've taken on the pattern, shape and form that we are this person. Persona, where that came from persona, the mask, a Latin language. And a mask, what's a mask? A mental image, isn't it? A mental construct, a construction. That's all a thought or an image is, a mental construct. A thought construct, made up of thought. How many thoughts were you born with? I realise I didn't have any thoughts when I was born. I didn't learn words till I was about 2.5. I can't remember my birth even. So how can I say I had any beginning? And again it tells in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. That's all that God is a word. Another label we put on something we can't grasp with the mind. But something that is actually the mind that's expressing through us. And it can't know itself as that. All things were made by him, by the Word, and there was nothing that was ever made without the Word. And isn't that so? Everything is seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, we put words on to label it. And if God is the Word and all things were made by God, that's what we can understand God in a better way than fictionalising some big daddy in the sky that's going to beat you up if you do the wrong thing and it's sinful, or it's going to grant you this rather than that. You are already that. And the sense of separation and divided it into an individual is the only problem we've ever had. Taking on board the belief we are this person, we are this mask of identity, the conceptual image. And that conceptual image is a dead image. Because you're not talking about what is right now. We're talking about what we were yesterday, last week, or when we first remember going back. That's dead. And a dead image can't keep up with life. So that's why we're always suffering and in fear, anxiety, stress, guilt, shame, remorse, unhappy. Because we're trying to keep up with life with the belief we are this dead image. We need to look through this and see for ourselves that the pattern, shape and form is not the reality. That's why I say at the start of most of the meeting, I'm not speaking to anybody. I'm not speaking to any mind. I'm speaking to that I am, that sense of presence that expresses through the mind as the thought I am, just to this, nothing else. And remember, that's what it's told in the scripture. I be still and know that I am is God. Well, we don't realise that. Looking at these words again. When did you first learn words? When you were about 2.5. So you must recognise if I'm living till 2.5 without the words, I must be prior to thought. If I'm prior to the thought, how am I going to find the answer in the mind? Because it's thought made up. So we've got all these concepts, words, can't teach you anything, can't tell you anything. I can only point and ask you to look to where I'm pointing to and see for yourself. And in the pointing, you'll see the pointer is like the signpost up on the road, Burke Road this direction. But you're not there until you look, follow the pointer and reach it. So that's all the pointers are that we point to. Grasp it yourself and go to where it's pointing to. Look within and find where it's pointing to and see the truth. And know the truth, that's the other scriptural statement, know the truth and the truth will set you free. What will you be free of? The only thing you can ever be free of is the bondage of belief. The belief that you are this person, this mask, this conceptual image. So another way I put it, I'm not talking to anybody, I'm not talking to any mind. I'm talking to that I am, the sense of presence that expresses through the mind as the thought I am. How would you express to somebody what you are? You'd say, I am, wouldn't you? Instead of just recognising for what it is, you say, we've got this conceptual image, I'm Bob, the Australian, the good fellow or not so good, I'm unhappy, I'm sad, I'm depressed. We put all these concepts on, not taking into its bare, natural essence. I am that. I am that intelligence. I am that energy. I am that Sat Chit Ananda. Existence, consciousness, bliss, loving to be. And have a look at this body-mind. We've taken on the form instead of being seeing what we truly are. We've taken on the form that we are this limited person, this individual, the good fellow, the bad fellow, the unhappy, and after all, I'm only human. Take ourselves to be human beings, and you are being right now, you can't negate your beingness. And if you believe in God, you'll call God the Supreme Being. What happens if you take that word human off and take the word supreme off? Try and separate the beingness that is in this room. And look around and say, well, that's being a chair, that's being the carpet, that's being you, that's being me. Everybody in that room and everything in this room is that pure beingness, pure being, which is not separate, but we're separating it with the conceptual image, believing in the word. So you can't remember your birth because you didn't have any words. You didn't learn words till you were about 2.5, somewhere around that age. So you were functioning without the word. And have a look, investigate, are you this body? Innately you know you're not the body.
Appropriate.
Because don't you say my body, my mind, and you know you're not the body, you know they're not the mind because you say my coat, my car, my house, my shirt. Are you the coat? Are you the car? Are you the house? Are you the shirt? You're not. So maybe you're not the body either. But we've never looked to see that. You know very well you're not the car. Because you see that's something separate and apart. But we don't see ourselves as that. We think we are that essence, that person. Because we say myself. Not realising there's only one self, only one Atman. It's self. It's a self-shining, ever-fresh presence awareness. It's the one self that's patterning, shaping and forming and expressing as everything. And that self, if you like to use the term God, is the godliness. It's pattern shaped and formed and expressing through you as you. And if it didn't have that pattern, shape and form, what would there be to express through? But through that, learning the words, we've discriminated with the words. But we've got to look through them and see again, to recognise our true nature. So the same with the mind. Show me a thing called mind if you believe it's my mind. And realise, is there such a thing as mind? Well, is there? Have a look. can't show me a thing called mind, and you realise, break mind down and realise it's nothing but thought, and thought is nothing but a vibration of energy, how can you say it's myself? You think that's all you are, a vibration of energy? Or are you that one essence that's enabled all these pattern shapes and forms to appear or express through? So realise that the expression is happening through that life essence that you are, and that's what Christ told you, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. People thought he was talking about himself. He wasn't, he was talking about that sense of presence that pattern shaped and formed as that Christ was the way, was the truth, was the soul. Realise that every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been picked up along the way, because you had no words for the first couple of years of your life, did you? So when the words must have come about, well and truly, after you were born, and who were they learned from? Your parents. Parents fussing you around, you spoke words, didn't they? And said, you little Bob, you're a good boy, you're not so good, or you're a little Johnny or Billy. And then what happened? That innate intelligence, the capacity of reasoning develops at about 2.5. Reason that this little Johnny they're talking about, this must be me. This must be I. So then we take it on board. I am little Johnny, or little Billy, or little Bob, or little Kathleen, or whatever. And from then on, we've taken ourselves to be that believed in separate entity, this individual, this persona, this mask. And we suffer accordingly because of that. We've separated ourselves from the totality, the reality, trying to live as a separate entity and as an individual. And that's what the cause of all our anxiety, all our fears, all our stress, all our guilt, remorse, guilt, shame, jealousy, envy, all our psychological suffering comes about because we're related to this conceptual self and believe it to be real. But it's not the reality. The reality is that which never changes. And isn't this body you call you, the separate self, this entity that you believe yourself to be? Isn't it transient, like they tell you in the scriptures? It's constantly changing. And see that right now. When you look at it and realise you haven't got the same body as you walked into this room with right now, and you won't have it in the next 5 minutes. And mightn't notice it when it's seemingly so fleeting in the moment, but look back on it. Is it the same body you had 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or last week? It's not. We have taken it for granted we are that static body. That's the reality. But it's not. The reality is the essence that you are. The vibrating intelligence energy. Look out there in nature and see how it's functioning. The Earth's rolling around the sun, isn't it? The seasons are coming, the tides coming and going in and out. It's constantly changing out there. What's doing it? Isn't it the vibrating intelligence energy that's doing it? Which we call God, if you like, and you can call it that if you like, if you know what it represents. Not Big Daddy in the sky or somebody we think is going to beat the hell out of us if we do the wrong thing or make us whole or complete. But it's the same life that's rolling the earth around the sun, causing the seasons to come and go. And it's that same life that's breathing you. It's beating your heart. It's growing your hair in your fingernails. It's digesting your food. And that's why it can be translated as I am that already. I am already that. I am not this persona. Never was, never will be, or never could be. So we've taken on the belief and we suffer from that belief. Look how that works. The capacity of reasoning, we say it's I or me and believe it to be this persona, this mask. But have a look. Everything becomes relative to that believed in me. We're related to that conceptual image. And isn't relationship, reality, duality, it's relationship. Reality is duality.
Relativity.
Relativity is duality. So all our problems are problems of relationship, relating to this, relating to that, relating constantly to this dead image we are, not seeing everything as it is, but all related to. And relationship is dualism, and what we're trying to point out here is there's absolutely no duality in non-duality. There's only that one essence. You are that, you've always been that, and couldn't be anything other than that. But you are appearing in the pattern, shapes and form as something seemingly different. But the difference can only come about by the thinking. Dualism can only come about by thinking. Past and future, what's the way the thinking is happening? Good and bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating, positive and negative, me and other. Relationship. Relative to. And duality relates to the me and the other. Me and other. That's all that so-called karma is. Relative to me. Everything is related to me. And what other. So karma is cause and effect. That's all it is. When you're relating to this me, you realise that me is the cause. And ask yourself the simple question, can there be an effect if I'm not relating to a cause? If I'm not saying it as either bad or good, what is it? Just as it is. I'm not saying it's pleasant and painful, what is it? Just as it is. And what is its constant change? Like the body is constantly changing. That change, that transience, there's thousands of cells dying in your body right now and being renewed. That's what the change is, constantly changing. But it's breaking down ever fresh and ever new and every moment. Time is a mental concept also. If me is the cause, if I'm not relating to the cause of me, see me's books, false, can there be an effect if it's not related to a cause? It can't be. So all the psychological problems we take on, all this karma, it's all the one essence appearing as everything. It's good, bad, pleasant, painful. We don't want the bad, we try to stay with the good, not realising that the good's going to go and the bad's also going to go. How many bad states you've been in before and they've passed? How many good states it has been for a little while and they've passed? Constantly changed. And that's the transience of this manifestation. But the reality of it is the changeless, static screen on which everything appears. When we take myself, we take that myself to be the screen. But we're related to the personal self. That's why we never get it. The self is the pure self, the one essence, not the personal self. Take the personal out of it, and you are that self. See how it functions? Something comes up and I like it. We don't want the good things to go. We want to keep them there all the time. Not realising they're changing. They're constantly changing, and they always will be changing. We don't want it to go. So what do? We try to keep it there. We don't want the bad things. We want the good things. Trying to keep it there, we resist it from going. Try to stop it. Not realising no matter how much we try to keep it there, It's going to change. When you look at it and see it's constantly changing, and it always has, and always will, you're going to continue to believe it. You'll be bloody easy if you do. Something comes up, I like it, we don't want it to go, so we resist it. And don't you realise that any resistance you are in is conflict? You're fighting it, trying to keep it there. Not rising, it's the way the functioning happens, vibrates dualistically in the appearance. It always will. But knowing the truth about it, you're set free of it, the belief. We don't want it to go, we resist it. Resistance is conflict, and conflict makes you unhappy, depressed, guilty, uneasy. Another word for uneasiness is not at ease or dis-ease. So there's resistance, conflict and dis-ease going on you probably right now. Something comes up that I don't want this to be there. You mightn't like what I'm saying here and you don't want it to be there. So what do? You resist it and try to push it out. Again, conflict and disease. That's what our life's made up of. Because we've taken the wrong tack, the wrong direction, and locked into the false and left the belief, left the real behind. And when you start looking at the real, you realise it's never been contaminated, never been corrupted. Things have appeared on it, they've come and go on it. The things that come and go on it, the expressions that come on it, are not it. But look at a movie screen, have a picture on it, okay, all sorts of activities going on. When the film finishes, what happens? Has the screen been ever contaminated or corrupted by the picture, the movie that's been on it? Is that body you believe yourself to be? When the life drops out of it, or even when the life isn't, when you understand what it is. Has it ever been the sinner you've taken on yourself? You've ever been the fear-based essence you've taken yourself to be? You haven't. Because that screen's never been corrupted. But we've taken the belief that this is myself, the separate entity. Leaving yourself open to take on all these things which we never investigated. So when it vibrates in the opposite, it's all the one essence. Two ends of the one stick. So when it comes up, instead of trying to get rid of it, that I don't like it, leave it as it is. And it's transient. It's changing, like everything else in this manifestation is transient. And it'll move on. But we try to get rid of it, or we try to change it, and the good that comes up, that's not going to be there forever either. That's going to change. If there wasn't any discrimination, how could you discriminate or believe any difference? It would be the one essence, that's total essence that you are already. And the pattern, shapes and forms to express through, and a pattern, shape and live through, believe through. When you're in tune with it, recognise it and abide as that, as they tell you, life's going to be much simpler, much more ease, the ease of being. Not in the conceptual imaging all the time and the constant vibrations, patterns, shapes and forms. When it breaks down, what happens? That life leaves the body. And you've got a corpse. Now that corpse can't see, can't hear, can't be aware, can't choose, can't think, can't do anything at all. But all those organs are in the body, but they're no use at all without that life essence. So what are you? Are you the conceptual image, taking all those things, or are you the life essence that pattern, shapes and forms as all these things? Recognising that, and then you can be like as Christ said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. I'm not this body, mind entity. I am that. I am that one essence. That's what we point out here. And I ask you, if you've been investigating, look in the right direction. You'll never find the answer in the mind. I tell you that right here and now. because the answer is not there. It is the nature of the mind to vibrate, or what we call thinking happens. We break the thinking down to I think. And that's the I think, or is the conceptual image we put on it. But the thinking is the constant, it's changeless, the changing change. It's constantly changing. And in this change, it must vibrate into the opposites. That's the only way it can change. Have a look at your mind. If you're not past, it must be future. Not pleasant, it must be painful. If you're not happy, it must be sad. Why fixate on one and forget the other? Try and make it one-sided all the way. Know that it's going to vibrate into your screen. That's what a manifestation appears as. And in knowing the truth about it, you're not going to take it on board and reinforce it to the extent where it drives you mad or silly. Or it'll come and it'll go. No lasting to it. So that's what we point out. I should look along those lines. Probably a bit I've forgotten. But we can come out in your questioning, or those that listen to it, heard it, they can point it out in a different way. But the pointing is all that's necessary. Like as I said, the signpost is not it. The what other? The description cannot be the described. The
Map is not the territory.
yeah, the map's not the territory. They tell you all those things. But you can use the map. You can use the signpost. You can use the description to point. But you're not there. That with the description. When see what it's pointing to, and take your stance there, right with that. So get into it. Doesn't anybody want to take it on board? Stay in your thinking if you want to.
What did you say just then? Doesn't anyone want to?
Take it on board. Stay in your thinking if you want to.
No, I think so quiet. There's no words.
It felt really good just hearing you, Bob. It's been a couple of weeks since I've been here, and I've been exposed to a kind of a whole new approach to a few things, and just hearing you cutting right through to what's real just felt really comfortable being here.
Why would it do that?
Why would what do what?
Yeah. Well, what would do what if there wasn't a recognition of it?
Yeah.
Recognising itself. So naturally you're going to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Because it is the comfortability itself. It is an ease of being, and there's another term that's been pointed out in many different ways. And when it's recognised like that, take it to heart. Make it heartfelt.
The answer is not in the mind.
That's right. The mind is just another instrument. It can be useful, but it can be self-destructive because it vibrates dualistically.
What do you mean by make it heartfelt? What do you mean by make it heartfelt?
Get into the heart as the spirit or the core of being. Take it into your core. Resonate with it, recognise it.
And try to not think what it means, because that's where we get lost, you know, like when you love someone, you don't really think what it means to love, or when you see the beauty and it moves you somewhere within, you don't think. But when you try to kind of go to the head and explain what the love is that it's not going to work. Take it to the heart. It means kind of just sink it in, breathe it in, and just let it,
Natural sense of being.
Being aware, I suppose.
Mm.
Awareness and observation.
Yes.
Knowingness.
And that's how I translate it. Awareness of being is bliss.
I heard that example, which is it's not exactly the greatest, but it is the sense of certainty that comes with the idea that in duality you have with, let's say, your sex. Like, I know I'm a girl. Like, I won't wake up in the morning and thinking, oh, am I a woman or a man? Should I shave or put some? It's not. It's just something that is completely certain. I don't have to think about it. It's there. That sense of certainty is an analogy to the certainty of presence, of being. Don't have to think about it. What does it mean? Like, take the being to the heart. It's already there. You don't even have to take it. But it's just step out of the head, and what's left is that sense of being, that certainty of being, that doesn't need questioning or convincing or remembering or anything. It's effortlessly there.
And everyone is already that. Why make it difficult?
The only thing you know for sure is that you are. It's the only thing you know for sure.
Yeah. And nobody needed to ever tell you that.
Your story about the original face, I think, really helped. It was like, well, of course, there's no one identity. There's no.
And if you know that, it's like losing face when we're affronted, or we think, well, that's what we believe ourselves to be.
Yes.
And we think, and we're frightened to lose face, especially the Japanese don't like to lose face, you know, and all the rest of us don't either. And when there's no face to lose, who cares?
And that's what was helpful, because there's a subtle me wanting to be a better version, but there's no me.
Later that you'll probably be a better version, actually come about.
And when you realise that nothing can trouble you except in your own imagination, all your desires and fears just dissipate, because they're all relative to a me.
Yeah.
And so all the improving and the becoming and the thising and the thating, it's all relative to a me. So, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. We got up with a friend yesterday. She couldn't come this morning, but she had the epiphany at night when she suddenly saw her life in a way that is completely impersonal, that all the wounds and abuses that she was going through were absolutely perfect, taking her to the place of realization, a place of compassion and gratitude, and all in just one epiphany. That's just the way that it sometimes unfolds and shows itself to itself. And the innocence of her and everyone else involved in that was so profound that she just kind of mentioned and laughed. And I say, now you know what the self-love is. Because once you see what the self is, you can't help but love it. You don't have to improve it. You don't have to make it shiny or make it socially acceptable, whatever the values in society are. Here is mostly wealth, which is very sad, but maybe not everywhere, not in this room. But seeing the true nature of everything and loving it for what it is, without needing to perfect it. That's the love. It's not forcing myself. I can compare myself to others. I'm not so bad. I don't hate myself. It's all right. That's not. But I have to try to love myself more. That's not the way. The recognition that this is a dawning again when that is so obvious, that brilliant intelligence, that nature which shaped and formed that pattern, that personality, and every single action that happened and experience that happened in life is so much more than any story could say. Is so much deeper and more profound and beautiful and in place and intelligent than any interpretation we can give it in a moment. And that brilliance totally blows your mind, and then you just stay in awe. Wow. That's when a self-love doesn't need to be taught, and a self-improvement is not necessary. And from that place, when you actually see that everyone else is in the same situation, they've been through darkness, and they've been through light, and they've been through shame and humiliation and all of it. And you can see how there is no difference between you and them. So the love for and the recognition of the other as the same brilliant intelligence, and a love for that intelligence in here and that intelligence in there, is inevitable. An improvement may still take place, as you know. I say sometimes, when the eagle is flying to the other side of the planet for a summer or whatever, or is every single flight it takes, it gets better. It can't help it. If a driver is driving and it has 10,000 kilometers this year and 100 or 200 next year, it's gonna get better. It is the improvement is. The change is the rule. The change is the rule of life, is the only constant, the change. But the change to better comes with the practice of, like, cooking gets better. The more you cook, the better you cook. You don't have to have the story of improving yourself. The improvement happens effortlessly. And if it comes from the humble place, from the place of gentleness and that natural recognition of not forced love. I have to be kind, I have to be my own friend, I can't be against myself. That's the story. But if it comes from that place where that sweetness and that warmth is already there, the improvement's not really that necessary, because the compassion, every action comes from a different place, and that different place is already good enough. It doesn't have to be bettered. It doesn't need to be compared with any possibilities. That's anyway, that's how I see the self-improvement. How about you?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about self-improvement?
Who's to improve?
Yeah, where is the self? Yeah.
I love what Nisargadatta says, because I've been reading that again every night, and he just, says there's the slow ripening fruit, and then there's, like your friend had, sort of, chung, sort of a big bang or a big breakthrough, and then there's the slow ripening, sort of just gradually sort of seeing things quietly, and then there's a big sort of epiphany. Yeah. But all of it's good. Yeah, all of it's love, like you say. All of it's happening as it should. And there's absolutely, you've got absolutely nothing to do with it. You've been exposed to the truth, and the truth eats away the lie.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, yeah. Eats away the lie.
He says, there is only love. And he says, when I know that I am that love, I am that living love. I say, no, when I know that I'm that living love, he says, people will come to your door. They'll recognise it in you. Come and want to hear what you have to say. So it's the love that is the life, or the love that's living. It's the life in you.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
They come to my door too.
Yeah.
No wonder.
It's a beautiful thing.
One of my favorite sayings was that I've heard, which stands true when we're talking about that all is well, no worries, and all is love. I mean, even, when you look at the songs of a lot of great artists or people that are inspired or had downloads, if you want to call it, of inspiration, the Beatles, all their songs, love is all there is, love is all there is, and yet, all stimulus are neutral till you give it meaning. from the mind. And the mind is the one that's the storyteller that can make you suffer. And again, as you said, go from the good. Oh, that's a wonderful thing. Or that's terrible. But it's still a story. And when you take away the story, you're just left with what is. And that's where the love is. Yeah.
And the story is the lie.
Yes.
And the love is the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking this morning, and again, I'm leaving soon, so I'm going to miss all of you. I'm heading back to the States, but I went to get extra shampoo for the place I'm staying at City Temple, and I was thinking, God, somebody should invent Mind Away, you know, where you can wash out all that bullshit thoughts. You can just, you know, all of a sudden probably sell, but some people would go, no, I want the better Mind Away. But it really is all about going, you know, it could be called full stop shampoo, you know, and, you know, just one rinse and you're done and you're back in the present moment and you're back in the love that you are, the joy that you are, and the peace that you are.
Place that you never
Yeah,
left.
right, exactly.
You're talking about the Beatles and the songs, There'll Never Be Another You. That's why the ram jumped over the cliff. It's that same love that expresses through as people that are with their art, like Marika.
Yeah.
Beautiful art.
I love what you said, and I'm also from the States. I'm also going back in a couple of days. But isn't that actually an absolutely beautiful thing to know that there never was a you?
Yeah.
What an incredible liberation. No
That's
wonder it's
sure.
called the Great Liberation, to just be liberated from personhood. What could be more beautiful than to know and to live that? And at the same time to know that you are this totally impersonal force that is the action, and that action is forever alive and forever changing, and it's forever evolving. So it's really fantastic, because all we have really done is become much wider and greater. Definitely not this little tiny. Yes.
Yeah.
I would love to have a marketable shampoo that gets rid of that illusion. Of
Yeah, the
being
action
that little
figure.
tiny self.
Yeah. Action.
Yeah.
The action figure. It's an interesting thing to watch. That action figure. Always evolving. Never stagnant. Always changing.
I know people who use alcohol this way, but it backfires. It's not recommended.
Yeah.
Yes, right
Sure,
this
sure.
one. Two.
Yeah, I could call that bad too, alcohol, but it brought me here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Me too. Or not.
Whole universe conspired and used available means.
Well, they call it methylated spirits. I was a methylated spirit for a while.
Infinite creativity of that one.
The words to All You Need Is Love are running through my head now. Incredible words. Yeah.
Yeah, can't go wrong with love. You can't go wrong with love. Although it seems like there is again the division, good and bad. Love is good and lack of love is bad, but there is no lack of love. It's just a little bit of a clouds on the sky.
My son started teaching me that on the guitar yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
How amazing.
Wow.
How amazing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Great timing.
Oh, yeah, good time.
But it's interesting when you think about those words, because they're like the pairs of opposites. Nothing that you can do that can't be done, nothing you can sing that can't be sung, nothing you can say, learn how to feel inside. It's easy, all you need is love. So it's basically pointers to who you really are, the words to that song. Yeah.
They definitely got downloaded.
I think they were doing a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they also did Maharishi Mahesh
Right,
Yogi.
they did.
After
That's
they
where
did all those drugs,
Yeah,
they went to
yes.
India and did
They got
Maharishi.
downloaded from it, because even Nowhere Man is a great song too.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, making all those nowhere plans for nobody.
Yeah, that's right,
So-
yeah.
Well,
You
they
have
do.
to have the Beatles in the Legend show.
Yeah, we had one once.
Oh,
but
did
yeah,
you?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah. But it's true. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, all these things are so profound in a way that we, you know, they hit us, and then all of a sudden it's a different understanding of them. That's the key.
And
Aside
what's
from
amazing,
music.
they were turned on to that then.
Yeah,
Incredible.
back in the 60s. Yeah.
Yeah, pointers are everywhere. Like
Yeah.
if you have the eye to look, you
And
see them
poetry.
everywhere. You see in the poetry, you see them in the nature, you see them in every bird song or piece of art, because this is all expression of the same one. It's just to have the eye and keep recognizing it and keep appreciating it.
Yeah. Once you know who you're not, it's revealed everywhere. Mm.
I like your open joy at the right moment.
The thing is meant to be. When it happens.
I had an interesting experience during the week, which is simple, very, very simple, and everyone will just go, oh yeah, but I stubbed my toe. And what was really interesting was that normally I'd swear, which I think I did anyway, but then I thought, hang on, if I couldn't experience that, I couldn't experience pleasure.
Yes.
And not only that, I couldn't experience anything. I couldn't experience anything at all. Like if I couldn't hurt myself, then there would be no feelings whatsoever.
Yeah.
So there would be nothing.
Nothing.
So it's almost like a joy in stubbing my toe.
I remember once when I worked for Bob in the health food store years ago, and I cut my finger on a bolt on this shelf, and there was like a piece of my finger sort of hanging off, and Bob said, just watch it, just watch it, just watch it. You're not the body, just watch it, just watch it. See the sensations, see the, and then watch it heal.
Pain disappeared.
Yeah, it was just a sensation. Yeah.
Yeah, I did this Vipassana, so I went up and meditated for 12 hours a day for 10 days, right? And on day 3, I was sitting there, and it was last year actually, nearly a year ago, I had an excruciating pain here and in my butt. And because you're supposed to try and sit as still as you possibly can. I just thought, this is insanity. What am I doing? I'm just going to physically injure myself. This is just stupid. There's no point sitting here and getting physically injured. But it was on day 3 where they did that. They said, just place awareness. So you're putting awareness all around the body. So for one day, you just focus on air going in your nostril. And that's it. And the next day is focusing on this little triangle here, just the sensations here. And then eventually day 3 you're going around the body and just putting your awareness in different places. But the idea was to put the awareness on any particular spot. So this bit's calling out for attention because it's painful, but I'm only focusing on this bit here. And then when you eventually get to this bit, you take away any words. So there are now no words, and so you place your awareness there, but it's not even the idea of awareness, it's just your attention is there. And basically the pain disappeared. Disappeared on that day. Totally.
Put the concept on it and the
Yeah.
painting.
And I think they didn't want me back either at the Vipassana. I was a reject. At the end they said I couldn't come back because I did hypnotherapy and I had my own meditation, like I taught meditation at the time. So they said, when you're ready to stop teaching meditation and you stop, when you retire, you can come back.
Wow.
That's
It's
bizarre.
not the usual line.
Yeah.
It's a little group there doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course it was going to take lifetimes to get it. Like you might have to go back. You're supposed to go back 2 or 3 times a year. So
And
you're supposed
meditate
to
1
follow-
hour in the morning
There's
and
a
1 at
concept.
night.
Yeah.
Lifetimes.
And I was thinking a lot, and it might not even be this lifetime,
Yeah. And if you ask the teachers if they got it, they say no.
Do they? Yeah.
No, even Goenka
Yeah.
admitted he.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't mean that there isn't the hundreds that did.
Yeah. I didn't realise that. Wouldn't have gone at all.
Yeah. It's nothing to get.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are that.
Yeah, I remember when I did few Vipassanas. I did, I think, 4 of them, and I loved it all. I loved the struggle. I loved the commitment because I was so desperate to get it that I would do anything. When not 4 hours sitting with a strong intention. I was sitting all 10 because I was so committed. But then I went to the school in India when I learned different techniques of meditation, and I realized that if I sat those 12 hours or 10 hours per day and actually turn the attention back of who is placing that attention out there. Turn around and see who is doing all that doing. Who knows? Perhaps the moment of expansion, this is what happened to me when probably a year after my second Vipassana when I got to the non-duality retreat. And I got that question asked and suddenly everything stopped. Suddenly the world opened up. Just, listen to a few sounds and then check who is listening. Or watch your breathing and then see who is watching. Just turn around and see who is the action figure. Is there anybody there? Or the good thing is to just keep the mind completely busy with whatever it is doing. Is it watching sensations? Fine. Just hold one sensation on your leg, another one on your back. Just hold sensations so mind is busy. And then turn inside and see, is it anyone doing it? What's happening? And that, if you can locate someone somewhere, good, okay. Check, where are you locating it from? Oh, there is someone in the head watching the food. Okay, fine. How do you know there is someone in the head? Where are you looking from? And then there is inevitably the attention is just going to completely drop any shape, any form. Now you are just pure field of awareness. The mind will quickly come and tell you, oh, no, you're here. You're the body. You're in the body or whatever. But then you can see, where are you looking at that thought from? That thought is, again, another pattern in the field of awareness that is completely unbound, unlimited. So this one I was surprised. I loved every Vipassana I did. I loved it. But I was surprised that little component, if that was included, what a difference.
So that wasn't from their instruction at all? That
No.
was just bizarre.
No, that was, I went to India and I went to Pune and I met the Magic of Awakening, the non-duality school there, which got me ready to listen to Bob, to whatever he had to say.
It's interesting
Yeah,
you say
completely.
that because I did that 6 months of deconditioning at Guru Maharaja because I was living with a guy who'd been a premi or a lover of truth for many years, Brendan, and he said, the techniques of meditation are fantastic and, you should do them and blah, blah. So I went and did the 6 months of deconditioning, which basically shows you who you're not, basically.
Yeah.
And then, you get the hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, techniques. So your hands over your ears, focus on the breath, focus on taste, yeah, and so I did that, you know, for X amount of time, and then they sort of said, yes, you've graduated. And, you know, so I was meditating in the morning using those techniques, and in the evening using those techniques. And, you know, and my kids were running up and down the hallway one day screaming and fighting and carrying on like pork chops, you know. And I just went, I just am. What am I doing? And I just got up and yelled at them. Yeah. And I never really consciously sat down to do those techniques again, consciously, and that was in the 80s. But, you know, there's times when I just sit quietly and just zone out or zone in. But, yeah, it's interesting. It was a path. And at that time, Bob had given me I Am That, which I was reading as well. I was reading that. I'd read Alter Your Life and I Am That 3 times or something. And it clicked in, I believe it clicked in then. You know, I knew who I wasn't. Yeah. But it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good because it brought me to the point I am.
Well, just
Of the I am.
meditating for 2 or 3 hours a day. And now so I've stopped doing it and realising that because it was just an escape. And it was beautiful. So I was in that place of nothing or no person, nothing at all. But it's just, I think it's just an escape. So now I'm attempting to sit, abide in it and just have the feeling here.
Every moment.
Yeah.
Every moment's a meditation. When you meditate on the meditator that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Interesting to watch.
There's also humor in it, in some ways, at least. I was at a Zen monastery practice center that a teacher, Sherry Huber, had in the mountains, and they were going to do a 12-hour walking meditation. So I'm like, okay. After a few hours, everyone's going around in a circle, and they said, well, if you have to break off, you can go to the bathroom. So here's everybody going around and around, and then slowly I was walking toward the bathroom in the same walking meditation, but eventually getting to the bathroom and going, okay, okay, you know, but it's, it's all in the hope that you're going to be what you already are.
That's right.
Every technique that somebody shows you ultimately lands to what you already are right here, right now.
Exactly.
And when the mind's out of it, that's where you are. It's,
Even when the mind's
doing
into
its
it,
thing.
you're still
Yeah.
you're still only ever where you are. Yeah. And that's what people go, I was trying to get back into the moment. I go, who was trying to get back in the moment?
Yeah.
You can't be anywhere but in the moment.
That's
Only
true.
the mind gives you the delusion or illusion that you are out of the moment, but you never can be. Can't be anywhere else but right here, right now.
There's a whole industry now about learning how to get into the now, you know, and a lot of people who used to go in a different direction with self-help are now starting to preach about the same stuff that, you know, Bob's been talking about, Nisargadatta has been talking about for decades or even longer in some cases. But yeah, you can't get out of the now no matter how hard you try. Yeah, it's true. You know, for procrastinators, there was another book Nisargadatta was thinking of writing called I Will Be That. And for people that lived in the past, I was that. But he decided, no, not going to do it. Just stick with I Am That.
I will be that.
I had it, but I lost it. How am I going to get it on future?
Yeah.
What am I going to do to get it again?
That's great.
Oh, dear.
I remember, Bob, sometimes you tell that story when you were in the ashram and you were doing all the chanting and then routines and mantras in Muktananda's ashram. You remember? You say you had all this routine, trying, very diligent, trying to get and do everything fully. And then suddenly it just all fell off.
Well, it fell off after I went to Nisargadatta, and he told me something I'd heard many times, and told, you're not the body, you're not the mind.
Yeah.
This time I saw it.
But you still had to do everything that you needed to do in the
But it
ashram.
dropped off. I still did it, but then where it meant everything, it didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But to stay there, I had to go through the routine. And I didn't know what would happen. I thought I'd be there forever after. It was like being in limbo. Nothing to do, nothing to be, nowhere to go, nothing to say. And I thought, I'll be here forever. And my wife turned up and took me home. Well, didn't take me home. She went ahead and sent me the fare home, back home.
Yeah.
There's a little book written, I think by Rocky or someone, and it says, you're trying too hard to be where you already are. Yes. To be who you already are.
Come back to the place you never left. On having never left. Gone to the other shore.
A journey from the source to the source.
Apparent journey, yes. Feels like there is a journey, feels like there is a ride.
What a wonderful ride it is.
Everything included. Stubbing toes.
A ride that uses the least amount of energy at the adventure park.
Yeah, if you like a water, you always find the easiest way to level yourself. There is no resistance.
Stays in one spot.
Probably be a good state to be in to really listen. Listen to your inner being, isn't it? Listen to that state of listening.
Absolutely. Open receptivity.
Attentive to what is. Fully attentive.
In activity.
Yeah, it's all about staying empty. It's just because when we empty, the miracle uncovers.
Yeah, someone said to me yesterday they were always trying to fill the void. I said, you are the void. Oh dear.
I like Jesus' words, of myself, talking about the little self, I suppose, I can do nothing. It is the Father in me that does the works.
Yes.
I think that's probably points to something.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, to say, of myself, I can do nothing. ego is throwing in the towel. But if the Father is the Spirit in me, or is the oneness in me, the self in me that does everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Jesus, there's a quote, I think, of what Jesus said.
It is beautiful.
The first beatitude, I think, points something to me too. You know, blessed are those who are known if they are poor or they're nothing. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Is within you.
Not will be or was.
No, is. The word is.
Yeah, it's all in there in the Christian mystics and a lot of.
That's what Christ tells in it. I work, but not I. The Father within doeth the work. He called that essence the Father.
Yeah.
That's right. Most good ideas are simple. But people get so caught up in the semantics, don't they? Yeah.
That's all. It's no longer I that liveth, it's Christ that liveth in me. I can't sing, but you know.
Let's not get religious.
Not be religious.
It would all be so incredibly simple, wouldn't it, if we could just not complicate everything with this endless functioning mind. Everything is so utterly simple if we could really let life live us.
That's it.
Yes.
It's so simple.
Well, the life is living us. The life is living us.
Exactly. But the mind is what is constantly complicating it.
Yes, if you have a mind that's constantly complicating it, it's complicated. But if you don't have one that is doing that, it's a wonderful thing. You're travelling lighter.
And this is also the question we have now from someone who's watching us. What prevents us to not stay calm and always be agitated and in the mind? What is preventing us from being receptive and open and empty?
Yes. The mind, the story.
It's a habit. Yeah.
It's a habit. Yeah.
Running away from feeling stuff.
It's being hooked into the imagination and you know, believing that you are that.
Yeah, Tony, I like what she said. Tony just said it's running away. It's a habit of running away of feeling stuff. Yeah.
When you think about it, just what you said, life lives us.
Yeah.
The mind's not needed in the present moment, but it looks for something because it's got all. I think I mentioned I heard once it was called the storehouse of all your files from the past, the mind, and it wants to have something to do. It's like I have to, almost as if it's an entity that says I need to do something. So it starts again with the habits of going toward thinking as the answer, and you eventually get to the point where we're talking about where you stop asking questions. The answers will come to you in a different way, intuitively, instead of the intellectual thing that the mind goes, let me think about that. And that's what it loves to do. So, and that's where we can suffer. So, yeah, and it's coming to the awareness where even I can, when a stimulus comes to me and there's anger or something that shows up, it's the awareness of it can't be them. It can't be the person that just said that. It can't be that. It's a story that my mind is telling. And that's the awareness that'll change everything. Awareness, awareness, awareness will make the shifts happen. But again, I'm not the doer of all that. It just shows up that way. So.
And nothing can trouble you excepting your own imagination, which is all relative to a me, which is the memory, like the storehouse, you said, of the past. The memory can only be the past or be projected into the future. So, yeah, it's that old storehouse, you know.
Well, it's funny because I told Kat and Bob on Sunday after our meeting later on that night, something happened with my phone. A storehouse of messages and everything. All my messages were gone. All my text messages wiped out. But there was not a blip in me going, I'm so angry and so upset. I did what reality required and tried to see if I could get those messages back with a program and stuff, but they're gone. But that's another example of, if you don't pay attention to this storehouse of stuff, you're just there. And there's nothing in that phone now that has anything to do with this present moment. And it's just a good, almost an example. Yeah, I mean, there was nothing that was crucial. And if I had something on it, I would feel it, let it go, and just move on, because that's just a storehouse of what was. Yeah.
And what a beautiful distinction, because it's not as much a problem of habit of thinking or going to the mind as it is a problem of believing it, giving it attention, giving it credibility, taking it seriously. Like the mind could probably, you know, the narrative, at some point we were learning to speak and we needed the language, so the habit of repeating in the head, rehearsing before the sentence is ready, especially, you can see it when you learn foreign language, but anyway, it's the habit that later on became the narrative self. And the belief in the self, belief, taking on board that commentary is who I am, is the problem. And now whatever the commentary says, it becomes important, it becomes relevant, and it becomes torturing. If the commentary is there, but there is no one taking it on board, that's not a problem. Let it be, like the sweating is there, or salivating is there, the commentary is also there. So, but yeah, that's the way. If there is no reaction to it, there is no resistance to it, and there is no seriousness in it and belief in it, it's not a problem. Mind can do whatever it does. Mind is a wonderful machine. It's nothing to, nothing to be rejected.
The way of it slowing or being caught out is like when you're catching it in the act and seeing the nature of it. Is a good way. And like the three of us in a room the other day, and each one of us had a different way of hiding from things. And one was to just bolt for the hills or to another country. Mine, someone else was to go into the cave, and mine, I hadn't really noticed what it was because I was just intellectually saying, oh, it's a cave. But they said, oh, what you're doing, you're hiding down in the bushes. So there's this constant awareness, oh, heck, somebody's going to, oh, better sort them out, stay back, you know. And then so collecting information to make my whole world safe just while I hid in the bushes. And then seeing that notion pops up in everyday scenarios. Oh God, that's the bushes kind of feeling going on. And then I'm sitting with the feeling for a little bit. It's been caught in the act, and then it just dissipates a bit. And so that's showing up in various scenarios. That is, oh, that's that feeling again of doing that. And then those are the phrases that go around in the head with it. And it's just being caught out. You're staying longer with what's there when you're not either running or going into the cave or hiding in the bushes. Whatever patterning bunch of stuff arises in the context, you know, for you or for this immediacy. It's just one way in which the universe dissipates stuff, you know.
Well said.
And the man who was asking about what prevents us to stay calm and always be agitated in the mind is commented, if the mind exists.
Sorry?
If the mind exists.
Yeah, and so I have no perception of it existing. But I notice habits and phrases, and I never really, ego means nothing, mind means nothing, none of that stuff means nothing. Sometimes you just have to translate it back to what people might be meaning by it to have the conversation. So the noticing here tends to be, what is the sensation, what's the behaviour, what's the phrase. And often it doesn't go to the next step of saying, oh, I must have been making a phrase or any of that other stuff, you know. It's often fuzzy on that, but often it comes up, you know, to not add in those extra assumptions. You know, there must be an identity database, there must be a sense of self, there must be that. You know, it tends to stop before that happens. It's just a moment of nothing there, you know.
And I love what Krishnamurti says, that all conflict arises between me and the other person, place or thing, you know. So, there's got to be a me to have any conflict of any sort. And so when you see there isn't one, you know, what's happening is just what's happening. You know, and we're the elements, and, you know, whatever's happening is what's happening. No resistance. The action figures acting, responding, whatever. And it's just what is. No resistance.
like to know, we talk about the mind, but it has the one self has a mind, has intelligence, mind,
No.
the one self.
Well, they call it different vocabulary, different, like
Mind.
Zen calls it mind. Instead, what Christianity calls God, Zen, some of the Zen sanghas, they call mind or big mind. But it's just a word. Some people define the whole capacity or intelligence as mind, and some define it as no mind. This is just a question of labeling. Because when we say mind, it also there is different assumptions, like Tony was saying, that there is a database there with some sort of stored information, and this is the mind.
Yeah.
Now, apparently, the science says the mind is flat and is a spontaneous creator. In a moment, whatever is required, it just pops out. So it is the mind, we could say, is just one thought or one image at the time. But that's again assumption. That's just a label. Yeah, really, it's as truly to say there is mind as there is no mind, because there's neither.
But in my part, in a certain time, I sort of thought to stop my egoic mind and be open to the whole. I called it the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Holy Spirit to inspire me, inspire, to listen to the Spirit, and the thoughts were. And thoughts seemed to be thoughts were higher level thoughts of knowing, of being able to see and to absorb. So I'm just wondering, when we call mind, is the egoic separate mind that we think we have, or is it?
There's a statement that says, in the mind, no mind. And in the thought, no thought. So anything comes up and say, no mind, no thought. You don't have to go any further to try and work it out. Is there such a thing as mind apart from thought? And without a thought, there's neither mind nor thought. It's all vibrating on the screen.
All vibrating.
Can you pinpoint a thing called mind? Can you give it any shape, any form?
Well, it's not any shape or any form, because it's spirit.
Yes, essence.
It's a spirit vibration, I suppose.
So we call it mind, but we don't. What are we talking about?
No thought, where's the edge of spirit?
Where's the edge of spirit?
No thought happening.
Yeah.
Aware, I suppose it's
No,
knowing thing, I suppose.
it's not even that. There's no such thing as knowing if no thought shows up to say that. It's just a switch off, and it's just a switch off, really.
Thank you for saying screen again, Bob, because it just brought me right back. I suppose I've just been listening and kind of assessing and getting lost in what do I agree with, what am I getting really frustrated by, but then you just brought it back to it's all appearing on the screen, and I feel good now.
Yeah, well done.
All pointers, none of them real.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I felt like a really traffic warden. Go this way, go this way.